Go.
Hello, this is Mike Powell with Legacy Taxidermy and mikesdeadstuff.com have our website. And I just want to go over a couple of things real quick for some of the taxidermist friends of mine, or some maybe beginning in taxidermy, working on deer mounts. A lot of times there's a problem in setting the antlers correctly. And so I've come up with something. I picked it up from a couple other guys, but there's some measurements that I take, and I want to go over those with you before I tape out the deer. So we've got a nice little buck here that I've taken, and I want to go over some of the measurements that I take and record before I tape the deer out to prepare for mounting. The first one, of course, is the one everybody knows, is the tip of the nose to the front corner of the eye. You take your tape and measure, and that's a pretty standard measurements, one of the basic measurements for every form. So I've got about 6 3/4.
Okay.
Tip of the nose to the corner of the eye. The other measurements for the neck, I don't, before ordering the form, I don't take those measurements until I have the cape off and tanned. And so I take the neck measurements off the cape. But for the antler setting, I'll turn in here on every deer where the nose pad turns to the hairline. There's a little bitty crown here. I don't know if you can zoom in on that. There's a little crown of hair, little dot. Every deer will have that right at the hairline. So from that crown, I'll measure, well, I also measure, it's the tip of the nose to the eye, but I also measure the tip of the nose to the bird. So I have 9 inches on this one. Tip of the nose to the bird. But then from that crown, and I'll mark that down, 9 inches. For my right antler, I go from that crown, the tip of that crown, to the tip of the main beam. 16 3/4. Then I go from that same crown on the left beam, that little patch of hair, and it's 15 inches even. So 15 inches on this one, and 16 3/4 on this one. So I'll mark those down. The 9 inches, 15, 16 3/4. That transfers, and there's one other measurement, let me go over real quick, that I like to take. And I usually take this while the customer is still with me. The outside of the hair, the neck, this one, and just, I don't pull it very snug, but 19 3/4. No, excuse me, it's right at 19 inches. 19 inches. The reason I take that measurement is because, as you'll find out, many hunters, after they've left their deer off, imagine the neck of their deer as 2 or 3 times what it really was. And so I take that in front of them and I mark that down. Here's what your deer measured around the neck. So when I turn that deer into them, mounted, I'll take that measurement and show them I've got the same size as here. So, but for setting the antlers, now I want us to look over here. I've got a deer. I've got on the form, I've got it measured down, and I'll cut the skull plate to do the same thing, and I'll use that measurement. This one was 9.5 inches, and he's right at 9.5 inches. So that's good. But if it needed cutting or adding, I could move it, but I'll use that measurement to determine how close. Now I'll use that measurement. I'll imagine the spot. I'm having trouble getting that thing to stay there. There we go. I'll imagine where that burr, that little hair tuft is. It's approximately right there, and I'll measure and see what it was 12 1/4. That's, but I've got it mounted up here. I'll measure from that where I imagine that spot to be, but sometimes I'll make a little dot and measure the same measurement, and then I can tilt the antlers either forward or back. And then I use Bondo. I'll pour a Bondo set in here, put some wax on the form, pour some Bondo, but I'll get it set. I'll determine where I need the antler set. Because a lot of antlers, you can't always go by the rule of thumb, the 2 fingers from the eye to the bird. There's a lot of people who use that little measurement. A lot of people say you need to get a flow of the line of the forehead into the antlers. That's a general rule of thumb, but there's a lot of antlers, a lot of individual deer whose antlers are set way back. And some of them are set farther forward. Every deer is a little different. So I try to make sure I know exactly where that antler should be set. And what that does, that allows me to fit that cape. Because if you've got your antler set wrong, you'll have to pull. You'll either have too much slack there and down in the cheeks and in the eyes, or you'll have to pull it too tight and it'll pull the eye skin up. It'll give you all kinds of problems with the face. So you want it right. And even then, I still test fit every cape before I mount it. Get the antlers on there, pull the cape over. I recommend that I've already roughed this mount up. It's ready to mount. I've roughed the form up. Before you test fit your cape, test fit your cape before you rough your deer up. With the stout rougher or whatever you use. I use a wire brush, but before you rough the form up for mounting, while it's still slick, just like it comes, go ahead. It's easier to pull the cape over. Pull the cape over, test fit it, pull it up here, pull it up to the antler burrs, and test the eyes. Put a pin where your eyes will go. Hold it in place and just make sure it fits. And I hope that if you'll take those measurements, though, the cape will almost always fit. If you'll get the form that fits the neck, once it's tanned, if you'll get the form that fits the neck, and if you'll put your antler set according to those measurements, you're going to have a whole lot easier time mounting the deer, have a whole lot less problems adjusting the cape. I hope that helps a little bit of advice. Some of the wonderful guys on TaxiNet in particular have helped me out and passing along some advice, so I wanted to share this. Thank you very much. Mike Powell, Legacy Taxidermy, mikesdeadstuff.com. God bless you.